expecting. In order for me to get here, to this moment, it took a lot of encouragement and inspiration from an eclectic assortment of mentors and comrades, and from my God, whom I like to believe was exasperated yet entertained by the whole affair. My husband, Brad, has supported me unfailingly. He has funded my education and participated in it, never tiring of stories about everything from magma to Milton. My children, who are no longer children, Sarah, Amy, Emily, and Nate, have been endlessly patient with their mother. This is especially true of Emily, who is in the unenviable position of being in a college class with her mother and handled it with grace and humor. My parents, Jim and Laura Jorgensen, have loved and supported me unconditionally. They and my sisters and their families have loved me through long and unforeseen seasons. This is not a small thing. My professors have taught me well. In particular, John Hales has left his imprint upon me, and I shall ever hear his voice in my ear while writing. Thank you also to my mentor, Craig Bernthal, whom I have feared and admired ever since that fateful first of 5 Bernthal courses that I survived. Many additional thanks and bows to Stephen Church, Ruth Jenkins, Connie Hales, Ray Reichert, Ann Berliner, Rhonda Gerard, Nora Chapman, and Chuck Radke for challenging and inspiring me. To my many students, to my students at the Graduate Writing Studio, it seems like it sometimes, you have brought me much joy and taught me more than you could know. I thank you. Extra love goes out to all my beautiful, brilliant MFA peeps, this wonderfully strange family of people I am so proud to be connected to. Finally, much love and gratitude to all my Dakota House kids and family who give me with genuine love and prayers and wrestling, lots of wrestling. I love you. So tonight I'm reading from a piece in my collection. I just like saying my collection. And it's titled Early Kick. Just a couple of things that you need to know, just some warning and instructions, that's all. So there's some bad words and a mild sexual reference. So if you have not yet been corrupted by an MFA program and are still offended by these things, I just want to give you a heads up. And also, it's okay to laugh because there's funny parts. Okay, I'd like to dedicate this reading to the men and women incarcerated at the Fresno County Jail. Your bravery inspires me. You help me remember that what we have done is not who we are, and that everyone has a story to tell. And in the telling, there is healing. On my first day at the county jail, after the interviews, background checks, fingerprinting, and the tour, I sat at the back of the room listening and watching. 15 or so female inmates sat at the tables with the attached benches, all facing towards the front of the small gray room. Occasionally they would turn around to eye me suspiciously, whisper to one another, look at me, and then whisper again. The subject of this class was domestic violence. Some of the women paid close attention. Others passed notes back and forth or grabbed at one another suggestively. One extremely large woman with a bandana had her arm draped around the shoulder of another woman and kept turning around to glare at me. Lorna, their instructor and my immediate supervisor, had just informed us that our county has the highest rate of domestic violence in the state of California. Lorna asked the women what they thought were some of the reasons. The woman with the bandana spoke out. It's fucking hot here, that's why. I feel like beating the shit out of somebody every damn day in this town. I was there to learn from Lorna before I was given my own classroom. A few months before, I had approached the Fresno County Jail's educational director to ask permission to start writing groups at the jail. No one had ever done a writing group in this jailhouse, at least to anyone's knowledge. I had no experience working with inmates. Nobody, including me, knew whether a writing group would work. But to the credit of the jail administration, they were game. The idea appealed to them. Inmates telling their own stories in writing seemed like a healthy outlet and a good way to provide time away from cells for the inmates. We decided I should start with Lorna's class, where I could pitch my writing group to the women. In Lorna's class, the women separated into groups and began working on big sheets of butcher paper Lorna had tacked to the wall, writing down all the situations they could think of in which domestic violence might arise. The group nearest me was made up of 4 women. One of them was a pretty, tiny woman with a finely detailed face. Her hair was braided close to her head, and she had her jail uniform pulled tightly, showing off her trim waist. "I'll tell you all what causes domestic violence," she said. "It's called impotent." "What's that you say?" asked another woman. "Y'all know what I'm saying. Sometimes when the guy can't get it up, he blames his woman." This generated nods and mumbled agreements from the other women, and they consented to add it to their list. When it was time to present their group's poster to the class, the tiny woman with the braids volunteered to speak for the group. She stood in front, waving a red marker around in her hand. "Now, I don't know if you agree with us on this one," she said, indicating the word with the marker in her hand. "It says impotent. Y'all know what that means, right?" A woman I couldn't see called out, "Limp dick." "That's right," the tiny woman said, and here she made a motion, letting the marker droop lifelessly. A chorus of uh-huhs and "you know it's" broke out across the room, and I laughed a little too loudly. The woman in front of me turned around, stared at me for a moment, and then said, "You like that, huh?" And she laughed and turned back to face the front. When Lorna called me up to present the idea of a writing group, the women listened quietly. I stood there hoping I wasn't saying anything offensive, hoping the outfit I'd taken 2 hours to pick out was okay, hoping just a few of them would want to take a chance and sign on to get up early and sit around a table just to write, with this unknown rookie woman standing timidly before them. My family and friends reacted differently when I first told them I would be working inside the jail. Their response fell into two groups, excited and fearful, with the latter holding approximately 97% of the members. I understood their concern for my safety, especially after I watched the training videos that contained warnings about keeping a distance from inmates, always watching your back, never giving anything to or taking anything from an inmate, and about how inmates will try to con you into doing things for them. My son, who was a security manager in San Francisco, gave me a stern talk about safety, about how I trust too easily, about how I have to keep my eyes open and be aware, and about how I need to take all the rules seriously. I promise him I will, and then I break that promise within the first month I am there. Sorry, Nate. About 70% of prisoners return to incarceration at least once. I'm surprised the percentage isn't higher. For the past 15 years, I have worked at a community center in an impoverished neighborhood, and I've watched people I know and love struggle to get back into the unfamiliar life, the unfamiliar